My name is Yousaf. I'm one of the finance managers here at Team Chrysler.
Yousaf, we're going to ask you a few questions around financing.
Mm-hmm.
The first question is, how does financing a car work, whether it's used or new?
So financing is basically through the major banks that we work with. You can name like Scotiabank, TD, BMO. We work with all of them, and the convenient thing about it is that you have the in-house financing at the dealership, so you don't have to go out to a bank and get your loan arranged and then come and buy a car. You can do it all at once when you come into the dealership. So we have the vehicle here for you. Once you select the vehicle, you can choose how much down payment you want, right? So once you put that down, and then your payment is going to be based off the current interest rates based on if it's a new vehicle, which they have the special rates with Chrysler at this particular dealership, and then you have the used vehicle rates depending on the year and the year and mileage of the vehicle. So at that point, you just basically get a payment based on that, and you finance the remaining amount. You can do a variety of different things, bi-weekly, weekly, monthly, as you're comfortable, and you just make the payments for your vehicle. And the beautiful thing about auto loans is basically they're open loans. So some people are concerned about the interest. So if you are concerned about that, you can actually pay off the loan and you save the interest for the remaining period. So for example, if you have a 8-year loan and you paid off in 2 years, the interest is calculated based on the 2 years that you made the payments, and then obviously the remaining that you would have had to pay is paid off and goes straight to the principal.
Okay, and then when I come into the dealership to finance a car, do I have to apply? Like, do I have to fill out a finance application before I start?
So what happens is once you select the vehicle, we make sure the vehicle is correct as per your requirement. You come meet one of the finance managers, me in this case, and then we go through the credit application for you. So credit application goes over basic details in regards to your correct information, where you live, your employment, how much you're making, your home and assets, etc. It's information everybody would know off the top of your head, so you don't have to prepare too much for this. It's very straightforward, and from then onwards, it's enough information to apply to the banks. And if we need further information, we let the customer know. But for most people, it should be enough, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. My other question is, can you return a financed car back to the dealer?
So how it works is once you have the financing set up and you have bought the vehicle, so that vehicle is essentially yours at that point. Okay, so to get rid of the financing, what you could do is you could either sell it to somebody else, and then the difference, if you're asking less than what you owe, you have to pay off, of course, right? Sometimes it could be a little bit more complicated, just because the way the amount gets paid off and the difference needs to be accounted for, and arranging the funds. You can also trade into the dealership, which is what most people do. If like, for example, I need a different kind of vehicle, maybe my family has gotten bigger, and I need a van at this point, so the current sedan I'm driving does not suit my needs anymore. I would just go to the dealership which I want to purchase the van from, and I would trade in my vehicle, and they basically will set up the loan for the next vehicle and then take care of the difference as well, based on the trade value at that time. And definitely, there are a couple of ways to go about it. If you want to sell privately, you can even get somebody and run a transaction through the dealership to get the financing arranged, but most people do end up trading the vehicle in.
Okay, my other question is, can I finance a car with no job?
For financing, we do require employment, of course, right? Just because when you're financing, you have to be committed to a payment, and the bank is definitely looking at the fact that there's an income source. So for the employment, it has to be some employment there, because obviously you need the income to pay for the vehicle.
Can I finance a car without full coverage?
Full coverage, like warranty, or what are we talking about?
I think warranty.
So warranty, there's warranty that comes with the vehicle being a new vehicle. There's a warranty that's the balance of the factory warranty that's left on the vehicle if you're buying something used that's not super old. And then there's options to get extended coverages as well. Some cars don't have warranty at all, so you can get fully protected that way too, right? There's also, whenever you're applying for credit, there's ways to protect yourself, in regards to your life and, disability. So that way, if you want to add that protection on, that's completely optional. You can definitely add it on. You can also secure your loan, and protect the loan balance with something that's called gap protection. There's a few ways you can actually protect yourself when applying for the financing, and for some, they may be more inclined to do it than others. Some people paying like a big down payment don't really require, for example, gap protection, because they already have equity in the vehicle. Their loan is not going to be more than what the vehicle is going to be worth. So in that situation, some coverages don't apply, right? But there are protection options that we go over and make sure all customers are aware of whenever you're purchasing a vehicle and doing the financing.
The big question, can I finance a car with little to no credit?
So we work with all credit types at our dealership, and we have a long history of experienced finance managers here. So that being said, it all depends on the particular situation, but I would say our approval rate is fairly high. Like I would say 90% plus. We get most people approved, assuming you have income source, and you should be able to get some kind of approval.
What is a good credit score to finance a car?
Credit score is one part of your whole credit equation. There are so many other factors that contribute to whether you get approved for a loan at all. There's things like how many different types of credit you have, and the credit, it can be referred to as trade lines. For example, you have a credit card, credit line, you have an auto loan, you have a mortgage. Those are called credit trade lines. So depending on your experience with that, and also depending on your repayment history, and your utilization, and just how long you've had certain credit items, and your ratio to your income versus your obligations. So there's a few things that are involved in getting an approval. So definitely, like, a credit score is not just the only thing, but like a reasonable or average credit score in Canada is around the mid 700s as per what I've read.
Well, everyone asks this because some banks attract people to do financing through them. So should I finance a car through the bank or a dealer?
So the beautiful thing about doing a dealer is that you have the access to all the banks from your bank representative at the dealership, not just one specific bank. So we tend to shop the rate for you, assuming that's applicable, and get you the best possible rate when it applies. And the other thing is, with certain situations like new cars, our new car rates, because they're like specials with the manufacturer and the banks, they have an agreement together to provide those subvented rates. Most banks won't be able to match or even come close to those rates. So definitely, it's always a good idea to get the financing at the dealership, and it's also more convenient and will save you time.
Will financing a car build my credit?
Definitely, any item that's being recorded on your credit history and you're making good payments for, and you're not missing your payments, it does add to your credit history. It's like a job on your resume, right? So if you have one job versus a few different jobs with a variety of experience, it shows what kind of person you are, your credibility, and definitely it does make an impact on that.
How can I get zero financing on a used car?
0%. So 0% financing is not applicable on used vehicles, just because they go through the bank, and the bank rates right now, depending on the model year, like one of the lowest rates right now is like 3.99 on a used vehicle. I'm talking like 2020, 2021, and depending on if your credit is really good, maybe we can get that as well. So rates wise, it does fluctuate. It depends on the bank's programs at that time and the specific vehicles as well. But 0% is usually never the case on used vehicles, especially with new cars. There's 0%. For example, right now we have 0% on the new Ram, which is because we have that subvented rate from Chrysler, and the banks, they partner together to offer that subvented rate.
Okay. Can you cancel a car finance agreement within 14 days?
Can you cancel? It depends for what, like depending on what it is.
Can they
If
change
something is not sort of lined up with what you have agreed, then there might be certain situations where that could be applicable, right? That's very rare cases though. In most cases, and like in cars usually like all sales are final. So as soon as you sign the document, the bill of sale, you have bought that car. So there's no cooling off period in automotive sales.
Okay. Can a parent finance a car for their child?
Definitely, and this is the case with a lot of young people that that require financing, where the parent comes in as a co-signer, a co-applicant, and it's good to start the financing like if possible early on, just because it adds on to the credit for the younger individual to help build their credit, because eventually you're gonna need to use your credit for either like a car loan, a credit line, or a home maybe, you know what I mean? So it's good to have that kind of experience there to build your credit.
Can you transfer a car finance to someone else?
Finance can be transferred in certain situations. It really depends, but mostly what happens is, for example, if I'm selling my vehicle and somebody wants to take over the financing, they're probably just gonna run the transaction through the dealership. So the dealership buys the car at the price agreed upon, and if there's any other fees and stuff involved, but and then the new customer will finance that vehicle through the dealership as if they were buying a car from the dealership. So it's optimal to run the transaction through the dealership. It's not like a lease where it's easily transferable, but in certain cases it could be.
How do I finance a car from a private seller?
Private seller, you would have to go to the bank. This would be the usual sort of the case. It's a little bit tougher to do that just because it requires more time. You have to go in person to the bank. You have to talk to them, and then you get approved for the loan over there. And with someone that's selling privately, you also cannot sort of guarantee the condition of the car, and you're buying from someone that's owner of the vehicle. It all depends on the specific instance, but there are some cases where it's not as secure, or you don't have as much peace of mind as, like, for example, a dealership. Because a dealership, you buy the vehicle, we're a place of business, we are here, we're going to be here. Where someone is selling you a vehicle, they might not disclose something properly, they might not know the legal obligations, you know what I mean? Or when you're buying the vehicle, you don't know maybe something to check for, you assume everything is good, and there could be something that's not good. There's always things up in the air, but that's why going to a dealer is usually the nicest way to, or easiest way to get a vehicle.
I don't understand this question, but maybe you would. How much negative equity can I finance on a car?
It all depends on the value of the vehicle you're purchasing, right? There's a cap depending on your credit, depending on the vehicle you're purchasing. It's called loan to value ratio, because the bank is only going to allow a certain amount more than what the vehicle that you're going to finance is worth, right? It usually goes up to maybe, I've seen in some cases like 20%, but I don't see it going that much more higher.
I think we went over this, the requirements to finance a car.
Yeah.
Do you need a down payment to finance a car?
Definitely, you don't need to have a down payment. In certain cases, it does make the approval easier. In certain cases, the bank requires it as a condition. It all depends on your credit. But to get approved with a down payment is definitely much easier, just because the loan amount that you're asking for becomes, less, and the bank sees you're putting some money into it, so they feel a little bit more secure to give you, the loan for it.
What information do you need to finance a car? I think we went over that.
Yep.
What is finance charge on a car? Finance charge?
Finance charge? So we don't really have a finance charge. Certain dealerships, they might have a financing charge or financing fee. It all depends on what the dealership you're purchasing for. But the main thing with financing is there is the interest rate that's factors in, and initially there's a lien registration fee, which usually isn't that much. That's part of the contract. Your payment's not going to really change. But main thing that factors into the payment is the interest rate.
Okay. How do I get a low financing payment on a car?
You extend the term as long as possible, and you put the most down payment as possible. And obviously, if you get a cheaper vehicle, the loan is going to be for a lesser value, and then you will be getting a lower payment.
What is a good finance rate for a used car?
The standard rate of interest on most cars at this point in time is 6.99. Assuming you have decent credit, that's what you get the approval for. In some cases, I've seen lower, definitely like a 5.99, 4.99. It all depends on the model, year of the vehicle. It all depends on the credit of the applicant, and this particular bank and the programs at that point in time.
What insurance do you need to finance a car?
So for insurance, you have to have the vehicle insured like with regular auto insurance. And they have, from your auto insurance provider, they have what's called lien holder protection. So the bank just requires them to be stated on the insurance as a lien holder. So assuming the vehicle, there's a total loss, they are, paid out for the remainder of the loan from insurance first.
Okay. When financing a car, can you pay it off early?
Definitely, and that's like as I mentioned earlier. It's the beautiful thing about auto loans that they're open loans. So you can pay it off earlier as soon as the one payment comes out. You can actually start throwing money at the loan. So effectively reducing your interest, obviously, because when you pay towards the loan, it goes towards the principal amount, right? And then it will shorter the duration of your loan, and you can pay it off in full. Most banks, they typically want to be paid off in full after 6 months. Most dealerships and banks would tell you that, to pay it off after 6 months. And one thing I was gonna say is with the auto loans, it's nice to have a vehicle on a loan just because they do depreciate over time, right? So if you buy a vehicle, like let's say you bought it cash, you're still technically making a payment on it. You're just, realizing it differently. Just because there's not a payment coming out of your account, you're losing money via depreciation and, as the car gets older, right? So ideally what I tell my clients is best to have the least amount of financial commitment with the vehicle. So you just keep the payments because the time value for your money is most important. Because if you have $10,000 right now versus $10,000 in 5 years, that $10,000 right now is going to be worth more. And if you have any high interest debt, why don't you put that money towards that, or maybe in a mortgage, or maybe any investments that you may have. So there's always good opportunities where you can use your money and you just put a vehicle on the finance, which most people do end up doing, or lease.
How to check if a car is free of finance?
I assume you are asking if there's no lien on the vehicle. So with Carfax, they do provide a lien report. So you can go to their website and then put in the VIN number and then see if there's any liens on the vehicle as well. So that's something you can go on their website. It is something you have to pay for, but it will show you that there are no liens on the vehicle.
Can you finance a car for someone else? Doesn't have to be a family member, just anyone.
Assuming they're a co-applicant, most probably should be fine.
Yeah.
So for example, if I come in and one of my friends needs to buy a vehicle, I can co-sign for them, assuming they need me to co-sign, right? And then they can purchase the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
Technically, yeah. But then how that works is as a co-applicant, you are also putting that vehicle on your credit, so it will show that you have a vehicle loan.
Okay. How old of a car will a bank finance?
Right now it's usually 10 model years prior, so 2011 plus. There is financing available. Also depends on certain banks don't finance like really old cars, or they do, but it's for a very short term.
Okay. And can you finance a car under 10,000?
Under $10,000?
Yeah.
Depending on the bank, they require a minimum amount financed, roughly around $7,000. So assuming the amount financed is around that ballpark, you should be able to finance the vehicle.
How to finance a car through your business?
It works sort of the same way. For business, there might be a few other documentations required, like the business statements, accountant prepared statements for last 2 years of business, is because it gets recorded differently. It's not like where for regular employment you're getting a pay stub. And the majority of the times that we do a business loan, there is the co-applicant being the owner of the business that applies together, and yeah.
My last question is, can I finance a used car for 60 month, 72 month, or 84 month?
So it all depends on the vehicle and different bank programs going on at the time. Majority of the banks will finance 2016s up to 60 months. Not like in this year, and now 72 months you have to get 2017 onwards. And then like 2019s, 2020s can be financed up to 96 months too, depending on the bank, and obviously credit, unapproved credit.